If you lack confidence with standing starts, this video should help you find some. I'll outlay 4 different methods of standing starts and show you a way to practice them many times in rapid succession. By the end of this, you should have everything you need to nail your standing starts, grab an extra car length before the first corner, and improve your skills. Thanks to GT Omega for consistent channel support. Get 5% off their cockpits like the prime rig I use with code DannyLee.
Alright, so the first thing I'm going to show you is how to set up your active start and end point so that you can basically practice a standing start again and again and again and again. You can do 100 standing starts in like 10 minutes and get really good at nailing the method that you choose to use. So I'm going to show you that first, then I'm going to show you the granny start where you don't use any clutch. I'm going to show you the 2-button clutch start where you use 2 buttons to do your clutch. I'm going to show you the clutch pedal and launch trigger start, and I'm going to show you the dual clutch pedal start. So 4 different methods that certainly apply to the Porsche Cup, but you can expand it to other cars with a standing start as well. And hopefully by the end of this demonstration, you'll have a better idea of how to nail your standing starts. Okay, so the first thing you're going to want to do is set up your active start and end point buttons in the iRacing options. So if you go to the iRacing options, in the control tab, you'll see active reset save start point and active reset run. This is just for start and the end. So I have my start point button set to this button on the wheel, and that's the one that you only really need to use to set it up initially. The active reset run button or end button is set to this button over here, and that's the one that I do use again and again to reset the car back to the start point. And the next thing to do now is to get out on track and set up our drag strip standing start practice sector. And by doing that, you can just set up a good little run that you can do again and again and again. So I'm going straight out of the pits. It's a solo test drive session, so there's no one else to worry about. I just go onto the start finish piece of track and I press my active reset start button. Then I just trundle down the road, not too far, just first, second gear territory. And then I press the active reset run button. So that has now bookmarked the start of the active reset sector and the end, and it's put me right back to the start. The one thing that you need to remember is to make sure that your car is stationary and in first gear when you press that active reset start button. Whatever state your car is in, when you press that active reset start button is the state in which it will take you back to. So with the active reset drag strip marked out, I'm now just going to show you method number 1, the most basic method, just a granny start. It's literally on the grid, you're waiting for the lights to go out, you shift into first, but you don't touch your pedals. You just wait for the green light to go out and then floor it and let the clutch sort it out for you. So you're really doing nothing active or interactive here. You're just shifting into first, waiting for the light to go and gunning it. And as I do this, you'll see a line across the track there. That's the active reset endpoint. That's your active reset end sector endpoint. And when I cross that, I've set my delta. The delta is the bar that's coming up just by my rear view mirror. That tells me how much faster or slower I am compared to the last run or the best run in this active reset drag strip. So on the left hand side you'll see versus custom sector best. So I'm just granny starting, which is, you know, perfectly doable and consistent. You can't really get it wrong. So the delta is only showing maybe a couple of hundredths at most difference or variance between the starts. So although it's not the ultra fastest way to do it, it is very consistent and safe. So if you have no idea how to do your standing starts, that's not the worst way you can do it. So I'm not doing any clutch pedals, no clutch pedal, no clutch buttons, nothing, just shift into first, gun it and off you go. That's method number 1. Not very exciting or immersive though, is it? So, you know, let's move on to method number 2. So the methods I'm about to show you, method 2, 3 and 4, where I use a double clutch button, clutch pedal and button, and finally dual clutch pedals, are all in an effort to emulate or reproduce or just outright do the dual clutch pedal launch method. If you nail a standing start using dual clutch pedals, it just feels good. So a dual clutch pedal start is when you have 2 clutch pedals either side of a wheel. When you're on the grid and getting ready to launch, you press both of the clutch pedals down, so both of them are squeezed. When the green light or red light or whatever start light goes out and you're ready to go, you then release one of the clutch pedals. Then, as the car starts to move, you gradually release the second dual clutch pedal. That's why it's called dual clutch pedal, because there's two of them. They work in unison. One of them lifts the clutch up to your bite point, and then the other clutch pedal is when you're releasing the clutch the rest of the way to be completely disengaged and fully power on. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you how that dual clutch pedal start works and how to tweak it if you have a wheel with dual clutch pedals. Then I'm going to show you how to emulate a dual clutch pedal start if you have no dual clutch pedals, you just have a clutch pedal. Then I'm going to show you how to emulate a dual clutch pedal start if you have no clutch at all, just two buttons on your steering wheel. So no matter how expensive your setup is, no matter how basic it is, you should be able to reproduce all of the standing start methods that I'm doing here, and you will be able to find the one which suits you best and feels the most consistently quick for you. So first things first, if you have dual clutch pedals on your steering wheel, then you'll need to assign them as your clutch. So in iRacing's pedal settings, you need to go through the setup, press your throttle pedal, press your brake. Then when it comes to pressing your clutch and calibrating your clutch, you have to press one or both of your dual clutch pedals, and you can see that it's registering them 0 to 100%. That has now bound the clutch pedal to the dual clutch pedals on my steering wheel. So now take a look at the pedal telemetry box just to the left of my video here. And I'm now going to press both the dual clutch pedals down. So both of the dual clutch pedals are being squeezed, and you can see the clutch goes to 100. That's completely disengaged. Then I'm going to release one of the dual clutch pedals now, and you'll see that it's jumped down to 43%. So 43% is what the bite point is set to. When you have dual clutch pedals on your steering wheel, the bite point is usually set within the software of the brand of the kit you're using. So because this is an Acertec wheel, you would set the bite point within the Acertec software. And I've found that with the Porsche Cup, at least around the 43, 44, 42% mark has been the optimal bite point. And I'll show you now why that matters. So I'm just going to go out to the start finish straight. I'm going to set my active reset start point and set my active reset end point. I've now set up that short drag strip that I'm going to use, and I'm going to first do a granny start to show how they compare. So a granny start is just first gear, floor to throttle, over the line. And I'm just going to do it again for good measure. So granny start, first gear, full throttle, no clutch pedals involved whatsoever. So that is now what I'm going to compare my dual clutch start to. So I'm now going to try and do that. I'm going to stick my headphones on now so I can hear the engine notes. So I'm on the grid, start lights are up, both dual clutch pedals are pressed in, and I'm in first gear. I'm waiting for the lights to go out, and when they do, release one dual clutch pedal, phase out the other one. That was a little bit rough, so that was actually slower than I would have been with a granny start. That's why I said at the beginning, the granny start is actually not that bad, but it ain't that fun or immersive. So, and I'm going to do it again. Both dual clutch pedals pressed, full throttle, release one pedal, phase the other one out. That was a good start. So, as you can see, the granny start is good, but it ain't the absolute best standing start you can do. If you have dual clutch pedals in a dual clutch pedal system, you can phase that power in, and you can, so long as you've practiced it enough, you can get a better, quicker start than people who just stick it in gear and go. It is the optimal way to do it. It's not necessarily the most consistent, because it is tricky to do, but if you're good at it, you will be quicker off the standing start line with a dual clutch pedal start. So you just saw a couple of standing starts with my dual clutch paddles, but my bite point was at 43%. But I've now adjusted the clutch paddle bite point in the Acertech software to 41% instead of 43%. And you'll see that reflected in the telemetry now. So it's dropped down to 41%. That should mean that the clutch is biting a tiny bit harder. Maybe it'll result in wheel spin because now there's too much engagement. We're going to find out. Let's try it out. So a standing start, dual clutch paddles down. Okay, not bad. Let's try it again. See if we can see if we can improve, or whether that was a fluke. Great. Good. So that was a 500th improvement on the previous best, which was also a dual clutch paddle start. So that shifting down of 2% bite point seems to have made it go better, at least on this particular track, this particular elevation, this particular camber. So you might need to do a few practice runs on every track to see where you're at, but it's an improvement. Let's try it again. Oh, a lot of clutch slip that time. So there was a lot of slip that time because I wasn't quick enough to sort of calm the throttle down a bit to meet the clutch halfway and then power out of it. So that start would have been equivalent, if not a little bit worse, than just a normal granny start. But nonetheless, because I'm only a couple of hundredths off my custom sector best, that custom sector best is still more than a tenth better than the granny start that I did. So it is a consistently quicker start. If I was next to you and all you were doing was granny starting, then I would consistently be a nose ahead of you. And on a standing start, that can make all the difference. So you've now seen the most basic way to start the Porsche Cup and also the most advanced way to start the Porsche Cup. Now let's look at the two methods in between. Okay, so what if you don't have dual clutch paddles and you want to do a dual clutch start? Then you can achieve it in iRacing by just setting two buttons on your steering wheel, one of them to be your clutch and one of them to be your launch trigger. And that is an option within iRacing, but it's so useful and helpful for stuff like this. And you can set it up like so. Go to your pedal options. This is assuming that you don't have a clutch pedal. If you do have a clutch pedal, then you might want to stick around for the next method. But we're in the pedal setup. Just press your throttle, press your brake, and when it comes to setting up a clutch, instead set up one of your buttons to be that clutch. So I'm just going to stick the steering wheel on now, and I've set up one of my steering wheel buttons to be the clutch. Now you need to set up another button on your steering wheel to be the launch trigger, preferably on the other side of your steering wheel so that you can use both hands, one of them to do the trigger and one of them to let out the clutch. So set up another button on your steering wheel to be the launch trigger, and there you go. And underneath it, you'll notice a bite point slider. This is where you can set up the bite point that the trigger will drop the clutch to, and you'll see how that works when we get out on track in a second. So it's set to 41% at the minute. So let's get out onto the track. So out onto the track, I'll set up my start point and the end point. So now our active sector is now set. So I'm now going to press my clutch button, and you've seen the telemetry show that it's 100% pressed. Now I'm going to press that launch trigger button. This is just a button that's doing this. So I'm going to press that now, and it drops the clutch straight down to 41%. It's basically doing the same job as that second dual clutch paddle was in the dual clutch paddle start. It's dropping the clutch to the bite point. Not sure what that was all about. So these two buttons on my steering wheel now effectively act like dual clutches. I'm pressing them in, both of them pressed in, and when I release the dual clutch trigger, it drops down to 41. And I can go. So I'm going to try and do that now. So standing start, I've got no clutch pedal, no dual clutch pedals. I'm just going to press those two buttons down, rev the guts off it, and release that dual clutch trigger. And away we go. So I'm going to try a few of those launches now. Now that was really rough and not good. So I think that 41% is too much in this scenario. So I'm gonna try it again, just in case it was me being a bit too heavy with the throttle. That was better. That was not so good. But now I'm going to do a granny start, because as basic and as simple as it is, it may actually still be better than that 2 clutch button start that I'm doing now. So here's just a normal granny start. Yeah, so it wasn't better, but it was a bit less dramatic. That was better. By a couple of hundredths, that was better. Now I'm going to go into the iRacing settings and try adjusting the bite point to something a bit more relaxed. So the higher the percentage, the less sharp the clutch will engage, the less sharply the clutch will engage. So now I'm going to try it with a 43% bite point. So get out onto the track. Set the active sector start and end, and now I'm ready to try my practice launch with a 43% bite point instead. So both buttons in. That sounded good. It sounded smooth. You see how the power feeds in? So as the clutch rises, the power feeds in and they meet in the middle, and then they can both get fully engaged. So that's the sort of feeling that you want when you do a standing start. You want there to be a lot of initial momentum, no wheel spin, but then you want the power and the clutch to meet and equalize so that you can then get the full throttle out. It's the best way to describe it. It's a bit of a wispy, nebulous thing to describe, but if you practice it enough, you're going to get a feeling for it, and that's what this standing start active sector trick is good for doing. A bit of tyre chatter on that one, so it was looking good, then lost a little bit of traction as we moved away. But it does feel like maybe 42% might be worth trying, so let's try it. That was decent. That felt good. Sounded good. Sounded like a maximum transfer of power before the clutch and power equalised. Then I could gun it and just get away from the line. Last launch before I move on to the final method. Yep, that is good. I'm happy with that, but I'm just for sanity, I'm just going to do a granny start, see how it compares. So how much faster is that dual clutch button method than a normal granny start? If it is at all, could be slower. Basically the same. So you get the same results with a granny start as you do with the dual clutch button start, but it's more fun, if you ask me. It's more fun to do the button start and actually introduce some skill into it. Plus, if you get lucky, you do get that couple of hundreds of time advantage out of it, but don't discount the granny start because it seems to work fine. Auto clutch really does sort it all out for you. So lastly, we've got the final method where you've got a clutch pedal but no dual clutch pedals. So this will probably be a fairly common setup. Not everybody has dual clutch pedals, but a lot of people do have a clutch pedal. So this is how you would set that up. So you'll still use the launch trigger. The launch trigger is essential for this. So that launch trigger is going to stay in place, but I'm going to set my pedals up normally. Press the throttle, press the brake, and then press the clutch. So I'm now pressing my clutch pedal. It's being detected up and down. It's ready to go. So this final method is how you would launch if you had no dual clutch pedals, but you had a clutch pedal. So let's get back out on track again for the final time, set up our final active sector drag strip. There we go. Okay, so our clutch pedal is set up as the clutch, but we also have that trigger button. So here's what's going to happen. I'm on the start line, I'm pressing my clutch down all the way, I'm in gear, and I'm going to press that launch trigger button down. I'm not going to release it yet. So I've now pressed it down, and when I release it, you'll see the clutch telemetry graph go down to 41, 42. We changed it, didn't we? Yeah, it's gone down to 42. But my clutch pedal is still pressed down all the way, so now I can release it. What? What? There we go, that's it. Wow, that's a crazy bug. I don't know what that's all about. But anyway, what's meant to happen is you've got your clutch pedal down, you press your launch trigger, as soon as the red, green light, whatever light goes out, you would release the launch trigger button, your clutch goes down to 42, and you then use your clutch pedal to phase out the clutch the rest of the way. So this is how it looks. So clutch pedal down, launch trigger on, and there you go. It's a bit tricky. It's not my favourite way of doing it. It is a bit tricky, but it nonetheless does work. It emulates a dual clutch pedal setup using the equipment you have available to you, because not everybody has dual clutch pedals. They're only usually found on the expensive wheels or a few select budget wheels like McLaren, the Fanatec McLaren, GT Neo, stuff like that. But that was decent. That was a good controlled launch. That was pretty good. That was good. And it also just means that the starts are more interactive, immersive, and feel like they're more skill-based. Okay, decent. Now let's compare it with the sanity check, the granny start. Okay, so that was pretty soundly proven that even a clutch launch trigger hybrid, if you get used to it, you're going to gain a tenth or half a tenth on the start, and that makes all the difference. If you just practice it, I could sit here practicing this now for 10-15 minutes solid, and I would never have to practice it again. I'd have my starting procedure nailed because of that active reset system and the 4 methods of starting a Porsche Cup car at the very least that you can now use. One last one for look. And that's an improvement on the previous best as well. So now when we do a granny shift, if I do a granny shift now, it's going to be even more at a deficit. Yeah, almost a tenth. That could be, a tenth could be like a car length depending on how you see it, or half a car length at the very least. So if I didn't bother practicing the standing starts, if I just relied on the granny start every single time, I'd be losing a place potentially every single time I did a standing start in the Porsche Cup. So it's worth practicing these methods. It's worth taking the time to find out which one suits you best. Regardless of how basic your equipment is, there is a method out there that will work for you, and that is how you would practice it. Now, all of that was demonstrated in the Porsche Cup, but loads of cars require different formulas and sort of compositions of clutch and throttle. So I'm going to take a car that I've personally never done a standing start in, the FIA F4 car. I'm going to take my preferred method of launching, which is the dual clutch pedals, and I'm going to use that active sector drag strip to narrow down the best starting method for me. So I'm going to go straight out of pits. This is exactly as I would do it in my own time, in real time. So straight out of pits, set up my starting sector, and end sector. So now I've set my baseline. I'll do a granny start just to see how that fares. And that baseline has been set. Now I'm going to try a normal standing start launch. My clutch bite point is set to 41. I'm just going to see how that turns out. So here we go. Okay, mild improvement. Still scraping off a hundredth here or there. I'm going to experiment with bite points in a second. Okay, so pretty consistent and maybe a couple of hundredths of a second, half a tenth quicker than granny start. So I'm going to try a higher bite point. So at the minute it's set to 41. I'm going to try a 42% bite point. And that's now set. So sort of feels like the revs are staying high for a while, so I'm going to try a lower bite point, 40%. I'm going to try a 40% bite point and see how that works out. What I want it to do is to try and transfer the engine power to the clutch fast enough for it to be fast, but not too fast that it causes rear wheel spin. Okay, only just. Okay, I'm going to experiment with something with a 38% bite point, just see how it goes. Maybe we need to go more aggressive with the clutch, and we'll find out. We'll find out. We started at 41, that was pretty good. What I'm noticing is that it's really consistent and safe, so we can keep on experimenting. Let's keep going down. We seem to be increasing the acceleration with every notch we go further down in the clutch. So again, this is what I was referring to earlier. The Porsche Cup responds well to 43, 42%. FIA F4 clearly loves it lower than that. So let's try it. Oh, that's good. An immediate improvement going down to 36. We're now on 36% bite point. And I'm not having to do anything weird with the throttle. I'm not having to try and control the power at all. It's very consistent and repeatable. Great. Out of curiosity, I'm just going to try doing a full throttle, bump it into first gear and see what happens. Yeah, okay, wheel spin. So there is a danger of it happening if I'm not concentrating, or if, you know, sometimes you fool yourself into thinking that maybe just a granny start would do well, but here's what happens if I now do a granny start, first gear rolling. Yeah, easily lost a tenth, that's half a car length, if not more, by the time you get to the first corner. So it is worth experimenting with a bite point. This feels really safe, repeatable and consistent. Let's try it with 34. Just keep going down in 2% increments until it starts to bog down too much or the wheels start to spin. That was pretty good. But now we're getting to the point where the engine bogs down. Great. Now, just out of curiosity, let's try a 30% bite point. Yeah, bogs down. So the engine bogs down slightly. So that 0.02 of a second could be a nose. You know, it could be everything that you need to sort of get past somebody or to get ahead of somebody enough to move over. So these things do matter. There might be only small increments on the delta, but they do matter. So I felt that 36% bite point for the FIA F4 works best for me. Great, perfect. There we go. I'm now confident with my FIA F4 standing starts, and it only took a couple of minutes. It's so simple and easy. And the good thing about the active sector reset is the fact that if you were trying to do this in a public practice session, you'd have to do a standing start and then reset to the pits. And you'd have no idea whether you were improving on your previous sort of standing start sector time. So this is something you can only really do effectively in a solo test drive session where you're free to just do your active sector resets and experiment with the start method that you use. And there you have it.